Hey guys, my name's Jesse. I actually used to sit where you're sitting. Am I on right now? I can't even tell. I used to sit where you're sitting. I went to Auburn from '07 till I graduated in 2010. Just will tell you, I've sat through a lot of these, a week of prayers. There's 25 smoke detectors on the ceiling. I've counted them because I even actually at some point started counting the boards, but I lost count. So I know they get boring. I know that you hear a lot. And I know that you sometimes, in a context like this, can just be completely oversaturated with, like, hearing about God. I get it. At the same time, I want to tell you that you have a privilege that a lot of people don't have. To be in an environment where you're at least talking about God, having conversations, as opposed to environments where you're not. You're just hearing a lot of people say a lot of things that they think are true. This is a different place. And so I get it. I hear you in the sense that, oh, another one of these, cool. But I'm excited about today because it's been something that I think for a long time has been stirring in my heart. I totally changed a bunch of I was going to say different things today, but changed it this morning because this just felt more applicable. But just a couple more things about me before we start. So yeah, I went to Auburn. I came back in 2015 to be the youth pastor here. I was here for a little over a year, and then I got put in my own church, now churches. I'm over in North Hill Adventist Fellowship, and I coached the 2 years and then came back for the last half of the next year. Now I'm back. I don't know why. Worst group of guys I've ever coached, I think. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, awesome. It's been a lot of fun. And you're all going to come out to the PSA game on Saturday, right? Cool. Okay. All that's out of the way. Genesis chapter 1, we're talking about identity. We're talking about being rooted. Genesis chapter 1, it's where it all starts. If you go to verses 26, 27, and 28, we're just going to read this, and we're going to start from there, okay? So verse 26, 27 through 28. Then God said, this is creation, then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over all the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, so the insects. Sorry, you have to like the insects. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them, and he said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. There's two things that I want us to look at as we're starting today, okay? Two things. First, you may have heard at least one of these, but both of these things have more to do with your identity than you probably even know. So the first thing is your image. You're made in the image of God. The second thing is something that I never heard talked about too much, but something that is key to understanding the Bible is the second thing, dominion. We're going to start with the second one. We're going to come back around to the first one, okay? Dominion, it means to rule, which, like, okay, what in the world? Why is this even in here? It means to rule. Someone who exercises authority over someone else has dominion, right? And we see that there are good and bad versions of this. There's bad versions of it. We've seen it like on a global scale, guys like Hitler, right? Stalin, where we just see awful exercises of authority over other people. You may have seen it in somebody who was in a position of authority in your life who took advantage of that in some sort of way. Maybe you had parents who just didn't really know you, but they had all these dreams and these ideas for you, and they think that you should be a certain type of person, and so they're trying to get you to be that type of person. That's exercising dominion, not in a good way. Bad bosses, different things like that. There's good dominion, though, good authority, good power, which is like your good parents. Maybe you had the privilege of having good parents. Maybe you had the privilege of having great leaders in your life, people that you could look up to who were using their authority and their power to help shape you and to mold you into someone that you were supposed to be. We see that in good bosses, good leaders on the world stage. There's good and there's bad dominion. And here's the crazy part, guys, and you need to hear this, and if you don't hear this, you won't understand a lot of the Bible. And it's this, that you were created to have dominion. You were created to have authority, to rule over. It says that in verse 28, or verse 28, have dominion over. In verse 26, verse 26, have dominion over. It means you're supposed to rule. And that means, this is kind of crazy, we're going to explore this a little bit more, but that means that, let me put it this way, that you are supposed to rule over, take care of, and be kind of a king and a queen over the earth. And let me show you what this looks like, okay? We have God, right? There's this God. He created all things. He's the creator. He is God. He is just always God and will always be God, right? He's just creator. And then if you know the Bible story, the biblical story, and can you guys see over here? You probably cannot. Let's see if we can. If you can't see, move over. It's important. Here's the reality, is God, He's the creator. He is the one above all things. He is the one who made all things. And then He creates, right? He makes creation. So He makes things like, and if you look through all of the days, He makes the birds and the fish and the plants and the sun, the moon, the stars, all of these different things. We have God and He makes creation, but then He ends it with something that is created but is different. And it says that He created man and woman, male and female, in His image. And then He does something that's already different from everything else He's created. A plant's not in God's image. Your dog isn't in God's image as much as you may think he is. Like, it's not. There's something different about you and me. We're made in God's image. But then the second thing is that we have dominion, that we're supposed to rule and have authority over the earth and the world around us, which means that we're somewhere right in here. And that's the order of creation. That God, the King of all things, the King of the universe, then creates all of creation and then says, now I'm going to put people over it who get to take care of it, who get to rule over it. And again, there's the good ruling, there's the bad ruling. Guess which one you're meant for? You're meant for the good one. You're meant to rule over this, not to rule over God, not to rule over Him, but to rule for Him on His behalf in the world. Now, I know this might be confusing and like, where are we going with this? But this is so cool, guys, because this is the order of creation. God is meant to be above you. You are meant to be above the created things and take care of them. Isn't that cool? What does that look like? It looks like, first off, and I'm not trying to be political by any means, but it means that, hey, we were given this earth. We're supposed to have dominion and subdue it. Now, some people will take that and they'll use the bad version of it, or we get to use it for whatever we want and not be sustainable and all of these different things. No, we were meant to take care of it well. We're meant to, I love Japanese gardens. They're my favorite place to be and to go. My wife knows this. There's one in Portland that it's my favorite. It's amazing. And you go in, and there's this mentality in Japanese gardens that sometimes stuff looks really controlled. So there's like a bush, it's a circle because they trimmed it that way. But that is not the usual. The usual ethic of Japanese gardens is we want to make this look taken care of, but look like it's wild, right? So you walk into a garden, and it's beautiful. The trees, they don't have any dead branches on them, but it doesn't look like they've been formed and shaped by a human. They've been allowed to grow naturally, but they've been well taken care of. And I imagine that that's what God's call for us was, right? To go through and to take care of stuff well, to take care of the animals, the creation, to take care of the world super well, but then to take care of each other super well, right? To rule over, because obviously at some point, we're going to have some level of society. Shouldn't we do that well too? And so this is what we're made to be like. We're made to rule for God. We're made, but then the second part, and this is where this becomes really important, is that you're made in God's image. So you're not made to just be this incredibly separate, I am my own unique, just perfect little person, no one else is. That is true, and it's absolutely not. You are unique and different and absolutely a different person from everyone else around you, and yet there is a uniting factor for all of us, and that's we're made in God's image. And what it means to be made in God's image means to be made in the image of anything would be I'm supposed to look like something, right? So if someone's sculpting a sculpture and they're trying to make it after somebody, like if someone's trying to make a sculpture of a human, it should probably look like a human. Now, some of y'all in art class, it's questionable, but it should look like, I haven't seen anything, so I mean, if there really is one, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to call you out. If you're going to make something in something's image, it ought to look like the thing, right? Well, we don't know what God looks like, but here's the thing that we could gather from this, that you and I are supposed to look like God, at least in the way we act, in the way we think, in the way we treat others, in the way we love, in the way that we have compassion, in the way that we're all about justice. We're probably made to look like, if God's like that and we're made in His image, maybe we're supposed to look like that too. So this is where it's cool and the two ideas come together, is then if that's true, then God is God. He is king. Everything comes from Him, but then He has set us up as kings and queens over the earth to then rule it as He would, with kindness and with compassion, with justice, with care, with tenderness. We're meant for that. But then comes this problem. In Genesis chapter 3, if you know the story of the Bible, you kind of know where we're going. But Genesis chapter 3 starts with this kind of confusing statement. Now, the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And you're like, where did this guy come from? There's three characters, three different things to look at in this. There's the serpent, there's humans, and there's this thing, it's like a fruit in there. And we know what humans are. Adam and Eve, they're put in this place. They're created by God, created in His image to rule over, to take care of this garden, to take care of it well, to go name everything, to then to build up, to utilize the creation well. They're put there for this. But so we know who humans are, but then there's the serpent. We don't know where he came from. It just shows up in the story, and apparently he's in opposition to God. But then there's this last thing, it's the fruit. And the fruit represents choice. I mean, the reality is that God either made us robots or He made us free will human beings. And you all know, like, if there was a person in this world, maybe there's this girl or this guy you got your eye on, and for some reason, that person literally didn't know anybody else in the world existed, right? They're just living their life like, wow, everything's awesome, but then you existed. That's the only person. Could they truly love you? Could they truly choose deep down in their heart, I love this person over anything else? Because the reality is that in order to love something, you have to have the ability to choose the opposite of it. That's what this fruit is God is like, listen, you are created in my image to rule over this world as I would, but you will always have the option to not do that. Because if not, you're just robots. I'm not in this for robots, right? People will be, well, robots will be able to love someday. They will have to develop choice in order to love. This is just a universal truth. And so there's this fruit. It represents choice. And this is the crazy part. Like, this is nuts. Let's just look through this story. The serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And He said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And He's just asking this question. Most of you have probably heard this before, but just follow me. Are you sure? Like, didn't God tell you something that sounded crazy? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat of it, you shall not touch it, or you're going to die. And again, this is choice, because God is just saying, like, listen, guys, you can always go the opposite way of me, but you're not made for that. Like, we could get all mad about God making us a certain way. Like, why can't we just function off of donuts? Like, would that not be better? But the reality is that if we were made to function off of donuts, maybe there was something else, and we wouldn't be made for that. If you're made for a thing, you're already not made for other things. Does that make sense? And so God made us a certain way. And so He says, listen, you can go a different way, but it will be destructive. It will not be helpful. It will hurt you. And so don't touch it. Don't eat of it. You'll die. And then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And just, you hear that that word. I just kind of passed over it, but it's so important that in the day you eat of it, you will be what? Like God. And maybe you could be like him. And what if he's hiding it from you? So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took of the fruit and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Here's the crazy thing. So the lie is, I don't know if God can be trusted. I don't know if he's worthy of being trusted. And so we got scared, and we're like, oh man, maybe he isn't the best for us. Maybe he's not the best king for us. So we decided, and listen to this here, we decided to take his place, and it changed everything forever. And here's why. So what we decided is like, well, okay, maybe God can't be trusted. So what if, and what it looked like at first was, what if we could be here too, right? What if we could be up here too? But what it really turns into is, I don't really want you here. In fact, I'd like to be the one on top, okay? Sounds good. I want to decide my own future. I want to decide what's good for me. I want to be able to choose and to go forward into whatever it is that I choose. Self-actualization, that's what I want. I want to be able to do whatever I want because that makes the most sense. Who knows me better than me? And what if God doesn't want what's best for me? I should probably be in charge. And most of you in here, I would dare say all of you are or have deeply experienced this. But here's the crazy part. You want to notice something? What is the way that humans get to the space, to that position of authority over everything? What is the way? They eat a fruit. See, this created thing, creation, all of a sudden, we have to use it. And what is really in charge then? What is ultimately really in charge of you? Is it you? Or is it the things that you have to worship? Because listen, you're not God. You don't know what you don't really know you. You think you know you. But now you got all these feelings that you got, like, man, I'm really feeling like I need to be important. I need to feel valued. And you don't know how to get valued. You don't know how to be that person you want to be. So what do you have to do? You have to look to things that aren't you. Hear that? Now, instead of ruling over creation, creation rules over you. And so this is the crazy part, is then what happened is that all of these good things that God made for us to that would benefit us, like think about food. I like food. It's good. It's made for us. Think about this. Not just food, but entertainment. We're meant to have fun. God did not make us to be people who's, I got to suffer through my life. He didn't make us for that. He made us to enjoy life, to experience life to the fullest. Sex, it's amazing. In the right, and I mean this, I'm not saying this just to be the Christian pastor. In the right context, it is amazing. God made that. He wasn't like, nah, you can never have fun. No, he made that to be the glue that holds two people together. Think about this. Praise. You're made to enjoy it when someone notices something you did, right? Wow, they actually noticed I did that well. That's awesome. You're made for that. These are good things in the world. Relationships, all of these things are good for us, but the sad part is that when those things become God for us, they become monsters. Because now, everything you do is built around this thing. Instead of God being the one, and let me just show you why this is so destructive, because it's because of how we're built. You're actually built to reflect. You're made to be in the image of God, right? So this is what this looks like. And I remember reading in a book, and it talked about this, where that you and I are $5 Walmart mirrors. That you and I are made to be angled mirrors. What that means is, if there's light reflecting here, as you can see, close your eyes. I don't really care about your retinas, but here you go. Whatever is shining onto me gets reflected into the world around me, okay? You're made that way. You're literally made that way. You are made to be a person who is made in the image of God. And so when God is your king, when he is the one in charge of your life, when his goodness and his love and his mercy and his kindness is a thing reflecting or shining onto you, then what naturally comes out of that? You start looking like that in the world around you, right? Here's the problem, is that you're made to reflect God. You're made in his image. That's what you're made for. The problem is when I kick God out of that space, I naturally replace it with something else. The question isn't if you're worshiping something or if something is in charge of your life, it's what. It's not if, it's what. What is in charge of your life? What is governing? What are you seeking and seeking after? And what is the thing that is controlling you without you even knowing it? And for some of us, it's stuff like our self-image. Right? We look at ourselves, we're like, man. And actually, let me just back up. Self-image is good. You are literally made by God. He delights in you. He looks at you, he's like, man, I'm so proud of you. I love it when you do. I love how you look here. I love that. The problem is if I don't want that from God, or if I've kicked God out of that space, then I still want that, but I have to find it from somewhere else. And the problem is that when I try to find it from you, well, you won't always like me. Some of you right now are just like, what is this dude wearing? Some of you right now are like, man, I don't really like how he's talking. I'm bored. And the problem is that while I would love to say none of that affects me, it obviously does. Just like, and you guys, just accept this, okay? You're in high school right now, it's the hardest time of your life. I'm not kidding. Because all of you right now are collectively trying to figure out your lives, and it's just brutal, okay? So what does that mean? Now there's a bunch of us who are trying to get value and worth from the people around us, and guess what starts to happen, right? This is kind of interesting. So think about this. If you have low self-esteem, you feel like everybody is looking at you and saying, wow, you're not dressed the right way, you don't talk the right way, you don't, when you raise your hand in class, like, why do you always have to have the answers? Like, why are you being that smart person? Why are you like this? You don't have the right friends, all of these things. And what's kind of crazy is what it starts to feel like. Can I get let's see here. Marco, come here. What it starts to feel like at a certain point, come on up here, is, close your eyes. I do care about your retinas. You're our goalie. What it starts to feel like at a certain point when everybody around you is looking at you is it starts to feel like this target on your head, right? Like, I got to be something or else I'm not going to be good enough, or else I might lose my life. You can open your eyes. Stay here, though. It kind of starts to feel like, oh, man, if I don't, if I'm not, if I can't, then my life is over. If my image falls apart, my life is over, and it starts to feel like that. But here's the thing. If your self-image becomes your God, becomes the thing that you care the most about in your life, here's the worst part about it, because it doesn't just affect you. You're not built like that. You're built to be a reflector. You're built to be an image bearer. And what starts to happen at a certain point, can I get another person? I need, hey, Sammy, come here. Come over here. Come over here, Marco. Just stand this way. Hold that for me. Can you turn off the lights? Actually, could we just turn off like a couple of the lights so it's dimmer in here? That's good. So the problem is what happens is Marco isn't just this individual all by himself that oh man, I just feel bad about myself and it affects nobody around me. Because here's the problem is that when Marco is feeling like the target's on him, it automatically is going to reflect. Let's see, where are we here? We're going to have to come down. Close your eyes and turn to your right a little bit. All of a sudden, all of Marco's insecurities and all of the things that he has in his life and all of the things that he's afraid of start to reflect on Sammy. Sammy's not good enough. Sammy doesn't have it all together. Sammy isn't enough. Sammy doesn't have the right clothes. Sammy doesn't have. Why? Because he feels that way. You guys can take a seat. you're an image bearer, and you will bear the image of whatever you worship. If you worship your self-worth and your self-worth isn't good enough, then you will immediately reflect that back out onto the world around you. I need a couple that's dating. I need a couple that's dating. Just come up, or just all of your friends around you volunteer you. There we go. What's your name?
Ashley.
Give me a high five. Izzy. Ashley and Izzy, okay. They're brave. All the rest of you are, no, I'm just kidding. So can we just, for a second, disassociate what I'm about to talk about them, but it's not really about them. I don't know you guys, so hopefully none of this is too true. But here's the thing. So reality is Izzy and Ashley, right? Izzy is an image bearer, right? He is. He just is and always will be. And here's the problem that starts to happen when we start to make our relationships the most important thing in our life, okay? Here's where it gets weird, okay? Let's say Ashley is the most important thing in Izzy's life. Why don't you face each other, okay? Here's where it gets weird. And we don't even realize we're doing it. So let's say one day, Ashley is just kind of like, man, I really want a boyfriend who just likes to buy me stuff. And Izzy pulls out his wallet, and he's just like, that ain't me. You want to, though, right? And he wants to because he cares, but also all of his value and worth, because his relationship is so almost overly important, is in Ashley. And so the minute he hears that, he's going to start buying stuff for her. And then one day, she's just like, I don't know if this is working. And then all of a sudden, Izzy's just like, what do I have to do? You ever done that? What do I have to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to change in order to... And here's the crazy part, is what Izzy starts to... Lift that up. Who does Izzy start to look like?
Ashlyn.
As Ashlyn? I'm so sorry. He stops looking like him, and he starts looking like who she wants him to be. Why? Because she's the most important thing to him. And now he's not really who he's supposed to be. He's not really who he's created to be. And Ashlyn, like deep down, you don't really want you. You want someone else. So when that person starts to look too much like you and is just like bending over backwards, you're just like, okay, I don't need this anymore. And so you start to back up. Because this is what you're made for, Izzy. Thanks, guys. You can take a seat. Thanks for being brave. We do the same thing. How much time? I'm over time, aren't I? Okay.
Keep going.
There's this one more. I just want to show you this. This is the weirdest thing that we do, and yet it is the most prevalent in our society right now. Okay? We all have one of these, and I don't want to just be that guy, like the pastor who just hates on all things that are fun. I don't. I like a lot of fun things, and I appreciate what all this stuff has brought. But we, in 2007, when Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone, with a smartphone, changed the world in ways we didn't really anticipate it changing. And we were already becoming a narcissistic society who really only cared about us. But this is the weirdest thing, okay? So remember, we're reflectors. We automatically reflect what's in the world. But there's so many of us, myself included, who spend the entirety of our lives, metaphorically and literally, just doing this. Just like, and the weirdest thing about it is, what are we doing? We're reflecting ourselves back at ourselves. And so there's this weird thing where it's like, well, aren't I important and valued? Well, yes, you are. But that's from God. And if God isn't in charge, if God isn't king, if he isn't in that place of authority over your life, then it's got to come from somewhere else. So you look at yourself and you're like, okay, wow, man, like I really like this sweater today. This is awesome. But you start out there, but then you notice, like, oh man, this side of my face doesn't look as good as this side. It just doesn't. This side is like the way my jawline is and the way... Man, I really wish that I would have gotten a lint roller before today. I've got 2 dogs, and we start looking at ourselves, we start seeing all of the things that are deeply wrong with us. And what's sad and weird about it, like follow me on this, what's sad and weird about it is in our bid to be important and valued, to look at ourselves and say, everyone else, look at me, like I mean something in the world. In our bid for that, we're staring at ourselves, but then we don't feel more valued and important. We start to see all of the problems with us. And then there's this other effect where what are we reflecting into the world? Nothing. Like Netflix is great. It is. My wife and I binge watch The Office. And when it leaves Netflix, we are canceling our subscription. That's great. It's a bonding thing. But at the same time, like you can get so addicted to a thing that's like, what are you accomplishing in the world? What are you reflecting into the world around you? What benefit are you to society? That's what narcissism does to us. When we're staring at ourselves, not only does it cause us to see all of our issues, but get this, we become useless to the world around us. And on top of this, what we end up doing is we're staring at ourselves, and because we look imperfect, what I start doing is I start grabbing someone else. What's your name? Lincoln, come here. I start grabbing someone else. I'm like, Lincoln, make me feel better about this side of my face. Tell me something.
You could shave it right there?
Tell me something nice about my face, Lincoln. Not that I need to shave. My jawline's perfect. Man, look at that. Thank you, Lincoln. You go sit down. I don't need you anymore. Isn't that what we do, though? I remember this girl. I liked her so much. I used to text her all the time. And I was that guy who was like, I'm not going to play any games. Like, if you text me, I'm just going to text you right back. I'm not going to wait that weird player thing where it's just like, I got to wait 2 hours to make it seem like I'm not just, is she going to text me? I got to do that because I'm like, hey, if I like you, I'm going to text you. She would text me, and it was like the best day of my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's texting me. And it would go from 2-minute responses to an hour, to 2 hours, to 5 hours, to the next day, to no more. And I'd be like, okay, whatever, I guess, it is what it is. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I'm not texting her anymore. Out of the blue, a month later, I get a text, hey, how you doing? I'm like, whoa, she's texting me. And then I went from 2 minutes to an hour to 5 hours to the next day. 2 months later, text, hey, how you doing? Whoa! And then I started noticing, I was like, wait, this isn't really about me, is it? You like it when I give you attention. You like it when I pay attention to you and show my interest, and right now, your boyfriend isn't doing it for you. Right now, that person, and yet, yeah, that sounds crazy, and yet we do it all the time. Why am I posting this picture on Instagram? Why? What is the purpose behind it? So that I can get people to automatically, immediately tell me how much they like me in a quantifiable way. And what am I reflecting into the world? I'm not reflecting anything helpful. It's just me and my image. But here's the coolest thing, okay? Here's the way that you were made to be. And here is where your identity is rooted in. You are made in the image of Christ. And I get it. This is going to be bright. But I want you to recognize something right now, okay? If you got to close your eyes, close your eyes. If I'm reflecting Christ onto this group of people, if I am reflecting something that is not me but is so good and so caring and so kind and so loving and so powerful that you can't help but be like, whoa, something is different about that person. That is who you're meant to be. You are literally built to be that person. But the problem is we get the mirror on other people. We get the mirror on ourselves. When we feel like people are looking at us, we try and reflect on other people. We are reflecting all sorts of stuff that we're not meant to reflect because we were not built to worship the created things. We were built to worship God. God is meant to be our king, to be our creator, to be the one who dictates to us who we are so that we can step into the world. And it doesn't matter if you don't like my shoes. And it doesn't matter if I only got 20 likes when yesterday I got 100. It doesn't matter because who I am, base level, is not what you say I am. It's not what anybody else, not what I even say I am. It's what God says I am. And when I reflect that God, His love and His kindness and His mercy into the world, that's when the world changes. That's when I'm truly living my purpose. If you want to find your purpose, you're not going to find it in finding all of these amazing things about all the things you could do. You're not going to find it there. You're going to find it in being with Jesus, being like Him, and then doing what He did. And the only way that you're going to experience that is out of Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ. The old me, the one who has all of this mirror problems, these reflection problems, that man has died on the cross with Jesus Christ. And now it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Guess what's so cool about this? Instead of just being a reflector at that point, guess what God says He wants to do? Because my mirror's broken, I got some broken stuff. Guess what God says He wants to do? He wants to take the light off of the beam, and He wants it to be right here. So that wherever I go, because Christ and His Spirit is dwelling and living in me, because my identity and who I am is rooted in who He says I am, that then I would shine out into the world in a way that changes the world around me and is not just like everything else. I don't want to be someone walking around just with a mirror. Want to turn off the lights real quick? I don't want to just be someone walking around, coming up to you in your mirror and trying to compete with you. What are you reflecting? What are you like? I want to look like you. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to reflect the world around me. And I don't just want to stare at myself in the mirror. I want to be like this, where God is shining, living. I am connected with Him, in relationship with Him, and through that, He is reflecting into the world around me. That's your identity. That's what you're made to be. Let's pray. Lord, thank You so much for being the God that You are. I know that I, in and of myself, have so many flaws, so many things that I wish were different, so many things that I think I'm actually really good at and I'm not. All of that stuff, Lord, is stuff I'm worshiping, and it's not You. So much of the time, and so many of us in this space right now are thinking that things in our life are more important than they really are. And because we think they are the thing, we have to worship them, whether it's the person sitting next to us, the relationship we're in, or what our social media feed looks like, or any of the things like that. Those things cannot fulfill us, and if we worship them, they will distort us. So Lord, teach us to just be with You, to find our rest, to find our comfort, to find our peace in You, to find our definition and to find our value and our worth in You. And as we do that, Lord, as we're with You, experiencing that with You, we would become like You, and then through that we would do what You did in this world because You were reflecting through us. Thank You for everything that You've done and for everything You will continue to do. In Your name, amen.
Please stand as we sing our closing song, Great Are You, Lord.